Cory Booker asked Mike Pompeo a series of questions involving the Muslim community, his perception on the Muslim community, and also his perspective on reproductive rights. Now, Mike Pompeo is very far to the right. He was a Tea Party congressman who served 3 terms. He is a self-identified conservative Christian. And so in the past, he has said things that were a little questionable when it comes to women's reproductive rights and about moderate Muslims. So let's go to video 7, where Booker asks him about his feelings toward the Muslim community. Take a look.
In a speech, you talked about folks who worshiped other gods and called it multiculturalism. You sort of mourn that we live in a country where that happens. And you said something very dramatic, and I know you know this. You said that people who are silent are complicit in those terrorist attacks. Do you think that Muslim Americans in this country who serve in our military, who serve in the State Department, their failure to speak up, are they complicit in terrorist attacks?
Senator, each and every human, not just Americans, each and every human being has an obligation to push back against this extremist use of violence. I also do believe this firmly, that for certain places, for certain forms of violence, there are certain who are better positioned, folks who are more credible, more trustworthy, have a more shared experience. And so when it comes to making sure that we don't have terrorists brewing in places where Muslims congregate, there's a special place, right? They have an opportunity. It's more than a duty, more than a requirement. It's an opportunity.
So that was his take on that. I want to actually go straight to the next video where Booker continues talking about this subject, and he kind of calls him out on an inconsistency or a hypocrisy. Take a look.
So you think that Muslims in America who are in positions of leadership have a different category of obligation because of their religion? That's what I'm hearing you saying.
I don't see it. It's not an obligation. It's an opportunity.
Okay, so
Senator,
it's interesting because I would agree with you that silence in the face of injustice lends strength to that injustice. I do believe, though, all of us, when this comes to violent actions or even violent words, have an obligation. And so I'm wondering, sir, do you know Frank Gaffney?
Yes, I do.
And you've been on his show dozens of times.
I was on his show some, yes, Senator.
I have here over 20 times, and he has talked about Muslims should be, who abide by the adherence of their faith should be considered, should be tried for acts of sedition and should be prosecuted. Did you remain silent when you were on his show? Did you ever question? Because I have a lot of his statements here. What about Bridget Gabriel? Do you know her?
I do.
Someone who runs an organization that has been considered a hate group by the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center. Were you silent? Did you ever call her out on her remarks that are hateful or bigoted?
Senator, I couldn't tell you. I don't recall each statement I've made over 54 years.
Okay, well, I believe the special obligation that you talk about for Americans to condemn things that are attacking our Constitution, our ideals, would obligate you in your own definition to speak out.
So he's pointing out how there are different standards when it comes to the Muslim community, according to how Pompeo has treated certain situations.
That was clever.
Yeah,
like
it was good.
It was
yeah,
nice.
yeah, good setup. Good, you know.
You said in a speech that mourning an America that endorses perversion and calls it an alternative lifestyle, those are your words, is being gay a perversion?
Senator, when I was a politician, I had a very clear view on whether it was appropriate for 2 same-sex persons to marry. I stand by that.
So you do not believe it's appropriate for 2 gay people to marry?
Senator, I continue to hold that view. It's the same view.
And so people in the State Department, I met some in Africa that are married under your leadership, you do not believe that should be allowed?
Senator, I believe it's the case. We have married gay couples at the CIA. You should know I treated them with the exact same set of rights.
Do you believe that gay sex is a perversion? Yes or no?
Senator, if I can,
yes or no, sir. Do you believe that sex is a perversion? Because it's what you said here, Senator, in one of your speeches. Yes or no? Do you believe gay sex is a perversion?
Senator, I'm going to give you the same answer I just gave you previously. My respect for every individual regardless of their sexual orientation, is the same.
I don't know how much of an impact that would have as someone who is Secretary of State. Obviously, foreign policy is more in his wheelhouse should he get confirmed, but it still gives you a sense of who he is.
It's integrity. It's about integrity.
Yeah, it's also, by the way, totally related to foreign policy. I mean, how do we treat? Do we fund countries in the? Countries have African countries, for example, have had very different tactics. Some successful, some unsuccessful, in how to treat HIV and AIDS. Some countries have excoriated and victimized gay people or anyone with the disease, while other countries have thought, let's distribute condoms and educate people. What do you know? The rates came crashing down. Under the Bush administration, we were much more likely to fund abstinence and harshness than we were education and condoms. So that matters. That would exactly be something that Mike Pompeo's State Department would touch on, and I guarantee you he will be on the wrong side of it. There's no evidence. There's 100% clarity of how he would decide to attack something like that. Because he thinks, by the way, no matter, I treat everyone the same except people having gay sex, which I think is a perversion, which we know that because he said it. He didn't repeat it, but he said it.
If you want to get the whole Young Turks show every single day, become a member, tytnetwork.com/join. And once you do, you'll be saying,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
Or you might say,
I think it's weird.
Or you might say,
oops.
No, that won't be that one. It won't be that one. It'll be great, trust me. tytnetwork.com/join.